G'day, Jinx here, and this is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be the start of my Ultimate Doom Builder tutorials. Now, I'm a bit of a noob at this, but basically explaining how to do things helps me do them. You know, it sort of teaches me how to do them by trying to explain it clearly. So it's a bit self-serving. And in this video, we're going to talk about on-death monster activated actions. And usually, you probably know about Commander Keen. So Commander Keen, it's a special room in Doom where you shoot Commander Keen, and when you've shot all the Commander Keens, a door opens. And that uses a special Linedef called 666. And the way it works is when the death frame animation for Commander Keen is activated, it triggers a code pointer or whatever they call it with the magical programming stuff, which then can open the door using that Linedef. So people are able to utilize this by using Dehacked to add that code pointer to any monster, which means you kill the cyber demon, something happens, doors open, and when you open doors, you can then manipulate Voodoo Dolls and so forth, do whatever you want. But there are drawbacks. The way the Commander Keen code pointer works is that every single copy of that monster in the entire map needs to be killed for it to trigger, which means it's very hard to use in a practical way unless you're willing to basically only have a monster used in a single encounter and nowhere else in the map, particularly if you've got a non-linear map. This is a method that does a similar kind of thing, but it doesn't use Dehacked, it doesn't use the Commander Keen code pointer, and it's also able to be used in any source port, right down to vanilla. I just want to say that I didn't invent this, far from it. It was made by a girl named, well, I don't know that it's a woman. I'm just assuming it's a woman because her name is Rita Remton and she's got a female Terminator or whatever as her avatar. I could be wrong, but I'm just going to say she from now on. So if that's wrong, I'm sorry. But Rita posted this on the Doom World forums, and this is the setup that I'm going to be doing. And what it is a way to define a Dehacked style monster death animation, a monster death trigger without using Dehacked. And I'll just show you how that works. I'll just load this up, just make sure no monsters is turned on. We're going to load this up in SATA. And basically, I'm just going to use a hotkey to kill all the monsters. If I kill all the monsters, boom, the door opens. Okay. And let's make myself into a god. You'll note that even if I kill some of them, it'll only happen on the last monster death. So last guy dies and boom, the door opens. It's a very, very cool technique, and you can do a lot of stuff with it. Because remember, opening doors will free up Voodoo Dolls and allow all sorts of your Voodoo Doll shenanigans to occur. Now, the way this works is, if I just go into her file, you'll note that she's got all these little pillars that aren't visible. And that's because she's using a function over here, a Linedef called create fake ceiling and floor. And this is a little way to basically fudge the engine into how it is displayed. So physically, it has these pillars, right? But visually, those pillars appear whatever the height and ceiling and floor height of this little sector is. I'm just going to delete that to make it more visual. Now when I run it, you'll see the actual pillars in game. Okay. Now the way that this works is that Doom has a priority queue order for any event triggers, meaning that if something is trying to occur but can't, it actually stops everything else occurring behind it and will even queue it. So what this is doing in this file is you jump off this pedestal and it activates a lower ceiling on all those little pillars, which are a single sector. And what that means is because of the imps are in the way and they're non-crushing, it can't lower. It's sort of stuck trying to lower. And because it can't lower, the open door command can't actually be triggered. Which means when you kill them all, if I kill them all, I'm just going to kill them all, and you'll watch the pillars, they'll all move downwards. Boom. Once they're killed, it can all move down, which allows the door trigger to then proceed. That's how it works. It's very, very cool and very clever. Rita did a phenomenal job here. Now, you might be wondering why she's using all the different pillars, and that's because if you've got a complicated level, you can't just lower and raise the entire ceiling. It's impractical. But all these pillars are the same sector, okay? So they're all one sector, right? So they're all one sector. That means that if any of the pillars are blocked in the entire area that you're working on, they're all blocked. Which means you can even have complicated rooms and just put like heaps of these little pillars all over the place, and you'd be very unlucky to ever be in a situation where not one of them is blocked. And that way you can retain your detailed architecture. It's just a great setup. And she's also made this is where the magic happens, in this very, very tight voodoo closet she's made. And what's great about this voodoo closet is that it's all single pixels, which means the killing the last monster and opening the door is almost instant. There's no delay. Now, when I rebuild this for you guys, I'm going to make it larger. So there's going to be a lot of delay, but it'll be very visually easy for you to see what's happening. Okay. And that's basically it. So just to iterate, what is happening is, let's do it inside the game. What is happening is that the Voodoo Doll is constantly trying to open this door, but it can't because it has to wait until those pillars lower. Once the pillars are able to lower, that event or whatever is out of the queue, and then the door is allowed to open. And that is how it works. So if I kill them all, you'll see the pillars come down and then the door will open. Very, very awesome. Okay, so that's basically how it works. I'll just do a very quick rundown of the Voodoo closet so you can see what's going on here. If I just make this sector, I just make it blue. This is the way Rita explained it to me. Imagine that you are looking at a river and you have two banks. You got a bank here and a bank here, and then a river in the middle, okay? Now, and then you've got this thing here, which is a bridge, right? What is happening is there's a scrolling floor along all three of these things, of the bridge and the two banks. So the Voodoo Doll is moving to the right. When he gets to a certain point, he is teleported back to his original position, so he keeps trying, right? Through some shenanigans using heights and stuff, when these lower, right, it changes the lowest ceiling height or whatever next to the bridge, and then that means, because it's constantly trying to lower this as well, this thing will then lower, allowing the guy to hit the river, which is scrolling vertically, which will hit these Linedefs here that open the doors and stuff. Now, again, I'll walk you through it and make it a lot, because it took me ages to decode and get this working, mainly because I'm a noob, and this is why I'm making the video. But that's basically how it functions, okay? The Voodoo Doll is just moving from left to right and teleporting back to the original position. And meanwhile, this bridge is constantly adjusting to the lowest ceiling height. And when the pillars are not lowered to their lowest position, as in all the monsters are killed, the lowest ceiling height is equal to the height of the two sides of the bridge, two sides of the bank, which means that the bridge is the same height as the bank, which means the guy can cross. Otherwise, it's lowered, which means he drops into the river and then slides upwards and hits the other things. That's how it works. Anyway, I'm just going to build a little demo room, and then I'll walk through the rest of it now that I've explained. So the pros, that's all you need to know. Go off and have fun. But for other people, you might want to watch me actually build the room so you can see how it functions in a better way. Okay, so here we go. I'm just building the room here. Nothing special. I'm going a little overboard putting textures and stuff, but you know, I just need the practice because I'm so new and it's fun. But basically I'm going to replicate the exact same room that Rita did. Okay, so what we're going to do here, for starters, we're just going to come down and we're just going to have a look at our little room. Now, I've just made, just for ease sake, the entire wall one big section, but you can make it any section you want, any size you want. I'll just give this a wall texture so it's easy to see what's going on. The way you can figure out how tall to make it is if you click on your thing, it says the height. So these guys are height 56, okay? And this sector, the floor height is 32, right? So all you need is a little calculator. 32 plus 56 equals 88 is the height you need. So if I click on the sector and I just set it to, I'll make it 90. Just give it 2 extra pixels. And they're basically just higher than the guys. Okay. Now, I'm going to just make a Linedef. I'll just put into wireframe mode. I'm just going to make a Linedef down here. And I'm just going to give that action of 199, which is walk over once, ceiling lowers to lowest ceiling. And I'm just going to tag that as 2. I'm going to come to the door sector, right click and go new to tag that as 1, and right click this one as new to tag it as 2. If I run this, you'll see that it just instantly pops up. That's another thing I might talk about later, where you can do instant, you know, popping up monsters and all that kind of stuff. Because what's happening is that it goes to the nearest adjacent sector. So this sector, right, is actually a ceiling height of 117. And because this Linedef is saying ceiling lowers to the lowest ceiling, because it's already lower, it instantly pops back up. But what we want to do is we want to set up a control sector. I'm just going to make them down here. Make a little control sector. And I'm going to click on that one and then click on the control sector and hit J for join. And now these are the same sector height, right? And then I'm just going to draw another sector next to it. I'm going to untag it though. And I'm going to make this one say a ceiling height of, let's make it 60. Now, because the ceiling height here is the lowest ceiling height next to that sector, even though it's sort of spread out because I've joined them, we should get the delayed function we were trying to get. Okay, so you can see he goes down and he kind of stops. And then if I kill everyone, it continues going down, right? Now, like I said, I'm going to sort of make everything large. So the best way to do this would have it basically only move a single pixel before it stops. And that way you get really instantaneous results. But I'm making it move a lot more than that. so you can see it clearer, right? So we've already got our queued event. So that ceiling cannot lower to whatever we set this to until all the monsters are dead because they're in the way. Right, so that's a bit embarrassing. I didn't have record pressed, so I just recorded a whole huge section and let's do it again. Okay, so I can't remember exactly where I was up to, but basically we've got the main thing sort of set up. What we got to do now is create the Voodoo closet. Now remember, I'm making the Voodoo closet really large to exaggerate everything so it's very clear what is going on. Just switch this into wireframe mode. And I'll just go boom, draw a big closet. And then I'll draw a river in the closet, like so. And then I'll draw a bridge on the river, like so. And then I'll just zoom in. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to set this room up so it's a bit more visually appealing so you know what's going on. As you can see, we've got the Voodoo closet set up as I described it, or as it was described to me by Rita. I should again iterate that it's her design. We have the bank, we have the second bank, we have the bridge, and we have the river. Okay, so the way Voodoo Dolls work is that you just have to place a player start spawn. Okay, but the way it works is that the last player start spawn that you placed becomes the one the player uses. And that's because there's like a complicated thing with how the things are all arranged and all the text files, or, you know, the lumps or whatever you call it inside the actual WAD. But in Doom Builder, whatever you place last sort of goes to the top or bottom of the list or whatever. I don't really know how it works. The point is, whatever's the last player spawn you place becomes the player spawn that the player actually uses. Okay, so we've just placed this player spawn there. We're going to grab this player spawn. We're going to put it here. And we're just going to make him go to there. And I'll put this one here. And I'll make him go up here. Okay. Now we want to make these scroll because we want to move this guy this way across until he gets over here and then teleport back. Okay. And we're going to do that using a scrolling thing Linedef. Now the way these work is, so if I right click on a Linedef, it uses the direction of the Linedef. So if you see, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but when you're in Ultimate Doom Builder, you'll see these kind of little sort of nodules, you know, they're basically normal vectors that show you which way the line is facing, right? And it's drawn from left to right. So because this nodule is, the normal vector is facing down, it's drawing from left to right, which means it's going to scroll from left to right. And the speed of the scroll is based on the length of the line. Okay, so if I use this line here, right, it would scroll right to left. If I use this line here, it'll scroll down to up. And if I use this one, it'll scroll up to down. Okay, so you got to sort of remember where your scroll lines are. The other thing that's important to know is that there's sort of like a bug, or there's something weird about GZ Doom with the way it handles scrolling floors. And there might be compatibility options for it, but a way to get around it is just to make sure that your Linedefs for scrolling floors that scroll things are multiple of 32. If you make it a multiple of 32, so 32, 64, 96 or whatever, then it will scroll at the same speed between different source ports, which is really important if you're making Voodoo closets that have timed releases. So, you know, activate a encounter and then 5 minutes later, arch files appear, right? If you don't do it in multiples of 32, then the timing of that arch file spawn might be very different between GZ Doom and other source ports. So make sure they're multiples of 32. So we're going to do it at 32. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to click this Linedef we're going to go Linedef, and we're going to go Linedef split. And then we're going to just select that vertex, and we're just going to move it until it says L32, which is line 32. We now have a 32 length Linedef. We're then going to select this sector and this sector, right click and go new tag to make it tag 3. And we're going to select this sector for the bridge, right click it and go new tag. It's going to be selected as 4. We now click the Linedef and we're going to search for scroll. Ooh, helps if I spell it correctly. We're going to use 232 scroll floor move things. So there's basically 2 ways scrolling works. It can scroll the textures or it can scroll the things. Now I'm going to use 253 scroll floor and move things, but you probably want to use 252 in reality because there's no need to scroll the texture because it's a voodoo closet no one's going to see. And it's also then, it's just less for the computer to worry about. I don't know how much of a difference the lag will make, but why risk it? But I'm going to use 253 so we can actually see the scrolling so it makes more sense to us. And I'm going to tag it with 3. Okay. Oh no, I had all these other lines selected. Oops, let's just set them to 0. Okay. So now we have this line, scroll floor move things for both sides of the bank. Now we also, so if I, what am I going to do? I'll just move the player spawn in here as well. You can see now he's moving along, but he's going to stop when he gets to the bridge. We need to also put the scroll on the bridge, but we don't want to have it set up with the same Linedef and the same tag. And the reason for that is that we need to be able to control the height of this and leave these ones alone. So this needs its own separate tag. That's why it's tagged 4. So we need to repeat that scroll for this Linedef. So we're going to select this Linedef here. We're going to go Linedef, split Linedef, vertex, and we're just going to grab that to 32. Same deal. Right click it, 253, I think it was 253. Yep. And we're going to set it to tag 4. Now, when we look, you can see he's scrolling along and he comes to the bridge, which is also scrolling, and then he moves off. Okay. Now we're going to put 2 more Linedefs. Now, my understanding is when I make Linedefs for, walkover triggers, I don't attach them to the edge of the sector. So if I'm going to make a Linedef here, I don't want to attach it to the edge of the sector. I'll just put it like that. Okay. And I'll make another Linedef over here. Like so. Okay. This one, I'm going to make, I think it's 199, but it's called walk over once, ceiling lower to lowest ceiling, like we saw before, and I'm going to tag that to 2. So when the guy is scrolled past this line, just move that a little bit like that. This ceiling is going to go down like we originally showed. And over here, we're just going to set this one to teleport. I forgot what that is. We're going to do WR for this one, so 97. WR means walk over repeatable. So we want it to be repeatable. And we're going to teleport it to sector tag 3. Okay. But now we just need to have a teleport location. Like so. And I'll just put him back into the exact same position. So now when I play this, he comes over, he triggers the Linedef that activates the lowering of the ceiling. He goes across the bridge and then he hits the teleport and he'll appear back and just keep doing this, okay? And this is the crux of how this voodoo closet works. So what's going to happen is we're going to end up lowering this bridge and allow him to get into the river, which means he won't teleport across, and so forth and so forth, okay? Now you might notice just something while I'm looking at this. This is a very, very quick thing, but at one point he is being affected by the scrolling bank and the scrolling platform, and see how he accelerates? He's going to accelerate again, yablam. That's something to keep in mind when you're doing your sectors. It's a whole different topic. I'll talk about that later, maybe one day, but it doesn't matter for this particular usage case. Okay, so that's our basic setup. Oh, and one thing I'll just quickly show you. If I just fly into the other room, if I now kill these guys, you can see it's already running because it's already we activated in the closet that as soon as the level starts, this thing's happening. But you can put that Linedef anywhere as he walks into the room, whatever you want to do. Just don't put it somewhere where they might SSR because you don't want them to go so fast over the Linedef that it doesn't trigger. Anyway, whatever. The point is we've basically got the major setup done. What we also need is the actual river scrolling. So we're going to do the same thing for the river, except we want it to scroll vertically. So we're going to do it on this Linedef. So go Linedef, split Linedef, go vertical, make it 32. We also need to tag the river. That makes it tag 5. And what was it, 253, I believe it was, and tag 5. So now the river is scrolling upwards. And that is the basics of the Voodoo closet is basically done here, okay? I'm just going to move this across a little bit. So if I just spawn in, we've got the rivers moving. See, it's moving me. He's moving onto the bridge. He's moving off the bridge. He's teleporting back. He's activating the ceiling. We are ready to actually put the logic in to lower and raise the platform. Okay. Oh man, I forgot to record it again. So let's finish this off. Right. So we've got the whole thing basically working. Now we just need to put in the magic source, which is how it all functions. And to do that, we're basically what we're going to do is we're going to set this whole Voodoo closet to be the same height as this ceiling when it's lowered. Now remember, we've set this ceiling to 90, but it's actually going to lower to the height of the imps above the floor. So the floor is set to 32 and imps, remember, are set to 56. Want to go 32 plus 56 equals 88. So the entire floor of this whole Voodoo closet has to be at 88. Okay, so we're just going to go sector, 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 and we're going to set all these to a floor height of 88. And if we now zoom in, you can see the ceiling's really low. So we're just going to make that higher so you can see what's going on. And we're also going to set this to a floor height of the river to a floor height of, say, 84. Okay. So that's what it looks like now. And now we're going to put in the magic Linedef, which is just Control D, and we're just going to draw another Linedef like this. And this time we're going to select it, and we're going to go raise floor. Raise floor, floor raise maybe. Floor raise. There it is there, 91. Okay, so that's the one we want. It's walk over repeatable, floor raise to lowest ceiling. Okay, so we're going to add that, and we're going to make that effect level 4. So if we play this now, he's going to come in, but we're not going to see much happening. He's just going to raise all the way to the ceiling. Okay. And that's because the sector with the lowest ceiling next to the floor is the river, okay, which is the same size as the room. So it's going to raise the floor up. What we want to happen is for this floor to be equal to this sector, okay? So remember, this sector starts at 90, then it drops to 86 or whatever to the height of the imps. And the easy way to do that is we just put another control sector in. Boom. And we just untag this one, make it 0. And then we're just going to go click on the bridge and then click on the control sector and go join. And now the adjacent ceiling is at the height of the imps. And then when the imps die, it's going to drop even further, right, to whatever this sector is. That's how we're controlling the height of the drop. So at the moment it's dropping to 60. So let's just, what do we make? What do we make the river? 84. So we're just going to make this 84. Okay. So the result of all that is, while the imps are blocking this sector here from lowering, the height of this bridge is going to be equal to the height of this ceiling. And then when the imps are dead, it's going to drop even further, which is going to lower the bridge and allow the Voodoo Doll to hit the scrolling lake. If we now play, you can see we shouldn't see anything happening here. He's crossed over the Linedef, but it's basically this whole floor section is the same height as what it dropped to. I'm now going to kill all the monsters. And now when he walks over it, it's going to drop down and then he's going to land into the river. Now you might notice that, you know, it didn't actually work. And that's actually an artifact of me scaling everything up huge to make it really visible. You won't have this problem when it's small. For our example, we can fix that by simply grabbing the vertexes of the bridge and dragging them down so they're at the halfway mark of the thing, okay? So basically the halfway mark of the thing. Or you can even put a pixel further down if you like. But if I now play it, I'll just kill the monsters. Where is it? Here. He goes across fine. And now, after the teleport, he'll go across. And bam, it lowers. And now he hits into the river. And he comes up. And everything's working the way we want it to be. So again, the way this is working is the sector in the middle of this little area is the lowering sector. And it's lowering, as we did at the beginning of the video, to whatever the height of this ceiling is. Then every time this guy crosses over this Linedef, right, he's raising the floor of the river to the height of this sector, the lowered sector, okay? But where it stops at the imps is the height of all the floor regions in this voodoo box. Then when the imps are all killed, it can lower even further, which changes the height, okay? And now the bridge will lower and allow him to fall into the river. And that's basically it. So all we need to do now is create another Linedef. We'll just put it here. I'm going to right click on that and we're going to go door open, walk over once, stay open. And we're going to tag that to tag 1, which is the sector for our door. And that, my friends, is basically it. Okay. So if I just go into things, I'm going to move the player spawn back into the control room and we press test map. You can see it all happening. So what I'll do is I'll just kill these imps. There's only one limp. If I kill him, the ceiling lowers. It's going to take a while because of how big our monster closet is, but eventually the door will open. Took a while. I was a bit worried for a second then. And that's just because our room is so ginormous, okay? You got to remember, the version that she made, right? That's how big the version she made is. Tiny. She has one extra Linedef as well, you might notice, this one here, to raise the ceiling to the highest ceiling. What this does is, after the door opens, it also raises these poles back up into the ceiling. That's a bookkeeping thing, and there's reasons why you might want to do it. I'm not going to put it into this video, but that's just something that's in this demo file. But yeah, because she has it so tiny, and she's using proper triangles to make, you know, less vertex counts, but because this is so tiny, it's almost instant, the actual result, while we had to wait for ages. So I could come down here. Let's just make it a little bit faster. But you'll need to, you know, just build the entire setup much smaller if you're going to do this correctly. I think that'll work. There you go, much faster. But anyway, that's basically it. One more thing I'll just quickly do is if we make a little sector over here, boom, we'll just make a little sector here. We collect this sector, which is, you know, the height of what we want the ceiling to be, right? And then we just click this one and we go join. And then I'm just going to redraw this sector to separate it again. And then I'm going to make a Linedef. I type in fake ceiling and floor, bam, and tag that as 2. And now when we play, you can't see it, okay? It's actually the same height as that little strut, but it should still function exactly the same. Again, the delay is just because of our really large object. So if I just come here, I just make the ceiling height, say 122, I don't know, whatever. The point is, whatever height of ceiling and floor this control sector is the height that you'll visually see in the game, okay? And that is the end of that. Hopefully that was able to be followed, and it allows you to just do some fancy things with how you're setting up. You know, now you've got basically the same thing as a Dehacked opening, except done with a Voodoo closet. Whew, gee, that took ages, and it probably took a lot longer to watch. So hopefully someone gets something out of this. Otherwise, at least it makes it clear in my own mind. Finally, I just want to say a big thank you for Rita Remton. This is her Voodoo closet, and it's everything that, you know, I'm just copying it. So all thanks goes to her. She can be found on Doom World. And this was taken from the thread, Things About Doom You Just Found Out. Well, that's that. And I'll see you guys next time.